Everyone, welcome to the main event, Friday, June 23rd, 2023. Yes, I did say Friday because normally there's a different show with not just one really handsome guy, but two handsome guys. And that handsome guy is out of town right now. So the normally scheduled episode of Spencer Coburn's The Bald Truth with me, Joe Tillman, is not to be today. And that's okay. He's got to have a life too. It has nothing to do with the fact that I've been slowly poisoning him with his supply of scotch that he's been getting, which he thinks is an anonymous gift from a fan, building up the levels in his system to where he's been in the hospital for the past. That has nothing to do with it. He just had to take care of some business. Anyway, if you don't know who I am or what I'm doing here, I'm normally not here on Fridays. It is The Bald Truth. But like I said, Spencer had some out-of-town business and had to deal with that, and it happens. So we're having a special edition of the main event. And my name is Joe Tillman. And if you're ever wondering, or if you're wondering what the hell I'm doing here, who I am, why I'm on your YouTube feed, if you just discovered this show, I'm a 20-year veteran of the hair transplant industry, 31-year veteran of hair transplant surgery in general as a patient, and I've been around. I got a lot of experience in this field, and my sole purpose of being here today is to help you better understand your hair loss and hair restoration options. I'm not making any money doing this. This is not a monetized podcast or live stream. I don't sell any products. What I do is I work with 15 fantastic doctors around the world, helping them with their practices, with their clinics on the back end. But I also talk about them to you with videos I've made about each clinic, some more than others, depending on what needs to be said. But that's what I do. That's what I do that's one of the things I do for a living. But I don't sell things to you. I don't work with these clinics where I get a commission if someone, signs up to have surgery. I actually try to talk you out of surgery because I know that surgery is not for everyone. And I know from a lot of experience, having been a consultant for many years with some of the top clinics in the world, that I will say a lot of people have hair transplant surgery when they shouldn't have hair transplant surgery. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of patients have false expectations. A lot of patients have an unrealistic idea of what a hair transplant will do for them. And it's not to say that all of those patients had bad expectations about what the result would look like. Some of them have false expectations or bad expectations about what it will do for them, what it will do for their self-confidence, or what it will do for any sort of problems that they're experiencing in life. I didn't expect to go down that rabbit hole or to touch on that. This is all off the top of my head as I'm sitting here. This is never scripted. But now that I think about it, that is an important topic to discuss, because a lot of people will look at themselves and try to find flaws if they feel bad about themselves, or if there's something in their lives that is really causing them enough problems for them to be depressed. They'll look for other things about themselves that they think they can fix easily, such as hair loss through hair transplant surgery, and other cosmetic procedures like rhinoplasty, things like that. And I've seen some fantastic hair restoration outcomes wind up being complete failures in the eyes of the patient because it didn't change the way they felt about themselves. They actually couldn't see that it was a very good result. And I'm not, this isn't like an excuse as to why someone may not appreciate a result. I have genuinely seen patients that have such a how can I put this? Such an image of themselves that when they're looking at themselves in the mirror, they literally do not see what's actually in front of them. They literally do not see their own reflection. They see the image of themselves that they imagine. It's a very difficult position to be in as a professional, where you're trying to listen to someone explain why they're unhappy with their result, and you're looking at it thinking, this is one of the best damn results I've ever seen. I've been there. I've seen these kinds of outcomes. No. Go over there. Go over there. No. Get out of there. Sorry. My dog was picking something up that she shouldn't. And that's one reason why I think a lot of people, relatively speaking, should not get a hair transplant, because they're looking for it to do something that it's not designed to do. It's not designed to fix the other problems in your life. Hair transplant surgery is simply a method to replace hair that's been lost so you can regain an appearance that you once had, or to have, relatively speaking, something close to what you used to have. So you feel better in social situations. Maybe you feel more attractive to whatever demographic you want to feel attracted to. Got to be careful with that one. It's not going to make you more successful in life. It can contribute to that as an underlying motivator, I guess. But it's not going to change things that aesthetics doesn't change. It's not going to fix relationships. It's not going to fix financial hardships. It's not going to do anything like that. It's just going to replace hair. If you are a subscriber to this channel and you watch this show on a regular basis, you've just seen another Joe rant. I'm simply trying to introduce myself in the show, and here I am going off on another rant. You're watching the main event. It's Friday, June 23rd, and this is a call-in show. You wouldn't know it with that monologue I just did. But yeah, it's a call-in show, and I am here to answer your questions. I did not prepare. I did look quickly on Hair Loss Cure 2020, which is my go-to resource for new treatments, for future treatments, and news about future treatments. And it should be yours too. I went there to see what was new. There's nothing updated, nothing that Anand, the operator, owner of that website, has uploaded today, which is fine. It doesn't have to be daily. But during yesterday's show, which got cut short, and I do apologize for that, I was talking about the amazing amount of information that's available today to the average hair loss consumer that's doing their research. I was on YouTube and I typed in hair transplant just to see what would pop up, to see if I could find something to maybe do a live stream reaction to, or just, looking for something to talk about, something to bring to you that you may not know about or that you might find interesting. I just didn't see anything. What I did find that was interesting was the number of videos put out by clinics in India blows my mind. Clinics I've never heard of before. There's so many clinics in India. It is it's amazing. And I didn't bother watching any of them. I'm just scrolling through, looking at all the thumbnails, and I stop every once in a while. I'm like, who's this? Which clinic is this? I've never heard of these people. And they're fairly new channels, and so you can't expect them to be clinics that have been around for a very long time. But it makes me feel bad for the modern hair transplant patient or person that's researching in order to become a hair transplant patient. You're doomed if you don't find resources like what I'm offering, or what Spencer Coburn's offering, and the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons and American Hair Loss Association, or Specs Hair, which is a good resource, or Hair Loss Experiences, which is a fantastic resource, or Hair Loss Cure 2020. You're doomed. Because I can't imagine the hopelessness that one must feel even after you start your initial research. You're just there's so much to wrap your heads around. So that makes me more motivated to continue doing what I'm doing. I'm going to I gotta reshape my daily schedule somehow to where I can start creating more hair transplant class episodes. If you're not familiar with that, right here on this YouTube channel, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on some of the outlet, if you go to YouTube and you search for the hair transplant channel, or just type in my name, I pop up. This channel pops up. You just type in my name, Joe Tillman. And I have a playlist called Hair Transplant Class. And then currently, I think it's 27 or 29 episodes or classes that I've created over the years, where I'm talking about the basics of hair restoration. I'm talking about, I'm dispelling myths. I'm trying to help cut through all the BS of the marketing that you are hammered with when you're doing your own research. I'm going to try and push out more content onto that playlist. It's tough, guys. I gotta tell you, there's making a video in and of itself that I feel good about, where I know that a topic is being discussed properly, at least on the few top layers, without getting too deep, because I could do a 10-part series in hour with hour-long episodes easily on a lot of topics in this subject. But yeah, I'm going to try to do that for you, because I just get motivated to do things like that when I see the shallow and meaningless and many times misleading information that you're being hammered with when you do your research. So I hope I can do that. Let's go to the chat and see what's going on there. Hello, everyone. So thank you for joining. Good to see some conversations going. Benny G, I heard every time you hit Joe's like button, a dormant follicle reawakens. That's good. That's good. Don't get a hair transplant to go clubbing in Ibiza. That's true. But yeah, so this is a call-in show. Toll-free number, 1-833-563-4247. You can see it right over here in the bottom left corner of your screen. And I will be shutting this down if I don't start getting some calls. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to talk to you about anything you want with regards to hair transplant surgery, hair loss medications. I'll tell you one thing I saw today when I was going through some of my socials, and I saw someone asking a question that I've not seen in a while. Who's making topical finasteride, and is it working for you? Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Joe, it's Lauren from Los Angeles. How are you?
I'm good, Lauren. How are you?
I'm great, man. Having a good Friday.
Awesome.
So I've been watching a bunch of videos with you and Spencer, And more than once, you seem to commiserate about the politics and the quote-unquote nastiness in the hair loss business.
Yeah.
I know about politics a lot because I'm in the music business, but can you explain this to us? What the heck you're talking about?
Oh, Lauren. Well, I'll try to touch on it a little bit because, I mean, it's a lot of it isn't really relevant to, to the average patient, the average consumer, but it does affect a lot of people indirectly, and I can say one thing specifically. So Spencer and I and a few others in this industry are looked at unfavorably by many in the industry because we tell the truth. It's a common occurrence in many industries where the majority of the people that work in an industry will go with a flow. They'll go with the narrative that people that are guiding that industry want to lay down as, the theme of the industry, if you will. And there's usually going to be some people that recognize the truth for what it is and recognize that it goes against the grain. It counteracts the actual narrative if that narrative can be harmful to patients or to consumers in whatever industry it is. When it comes to the hair restoration industry, here's a classic example of what I'm talking about. So you will look at the International Society of Hair Restoration Surgeons or Surgery, which is ISHRS. It's the largest organization in our industry. And for many years, they have turned a blind eye to some of the more, I don't even like saying this, but what they would consider to be the more respected members of their society. And for many years, those people are single-handedly responsible for some of the worst outcomes, some of the worst patient how can I explain it? Just worst patient outcomes that I have personally ever seen. Some big names. And for many years, they've had a program. I forgot what they call it, but it's a program where they will perform free hair restoration surgery for people that have had bad car accidents or oil burns or things like this where they're missing hair because of the accident, which is fine. But they've never addressed bad surgeries by colleagues, which I think is far more prevalent, far more of a common occurrence, and in many cases more severe than a lot of the situations that they're dealing with. They don't want to point a finger at their own industry, especially when it's their, again, quote-unquote, respected colleagues that are performing these atrocities, in my view. But recently, in the past, I think year or maybe a couple of years, they have initiated a new program. I think it's called World Hair Restoration Repair Day or something like that. And I only say that because they just pushed out a social media advertisement for this, where there's one day during the year where they will work on the bad hair transplant results of someone that went to a technician clinic, because they have this big thing about, this Fight the Fight campaign they've been running for the past few years, warning about the dangers of going to a clinic where it might not be a doctor doing all the surgery. It is one of the most hypocritical programs that's ever been initiated in this industry because, again, a lot of the big names in that run this organization, they're on the board of governors or have been in the past on the board of governors that actually run this organization are the worst doctors out there. You have.
So wait, you're saying the wolves are in the hen house?
Oh my God. They picked up the hammers and built it themselves. Are you kidding me?
Well, I don't understand. I mean, this seems like any other professional industry, right? There are good people and there are not so good people.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me you're speaking about a preponderance of stupidity and, for lack of a better word, fraud, if you will, which seems.
I can't disagree with that. My only question, like I've had discussions with people about this where I don't know if it's willful, if you want to call it fraud. I don't know if it would be willful fraud because a lot of people in this industry are just dumb. They're really like legitimately dumb. Just because you can get through medical school doesn't mean you're a genius.
Oh wow!
It means that
so
you can
funny.
memorize things and long enough to get through a test. That's the way I look at it. I mean, make no mistake.
So
there are some
you saying
fantastic doctors
the
in
art
the
side of it.
I'm sorry.
Are you talking about one of the very important aspects of hair restoration? Is its art form? Is that what you're speaking to?
I'm talking about the art form. I'm talking about the lack of ethics. I'm talking about the lack of self-awareness when it comes to how you're behaving. Well, look at this. Okay, here's a classic example of what I'm talking about. Not specifically, but you look at how some of these clinics are presenting themselves to you, the patient, the consumer, whatever you want to call it, in social media. Does it seem respect? Look, I look at the medical profession as an institution of respect because traditionally, doctors go through a lot to get that degree. If they're good at what they do, it means that there's obviously some sort of talent. I'm not just talking about hair transplant surgery. I'm talking about medicine in general. I do respect the field of medicine greatly. I have doctors. I have a lot of advanced medical professionals in my family, and I've worked in the medical field before I got into hair transplant surgery at one point for several years. I mentioned before I was in physical therapy going through college as a technician working in burn units. So I understand. Like I'm not unaware of how it works, and I respect it greatly. But I also believe that doctors should behave publicly a certain way. Or more specifically, they shouldn't behave certain ways. They shouldn't pander to their viewers on social media, their subscribers or followers or what have you. I don't believe in pandering. I think it's beneath their profession as medical professionals. I think it is. I think it's embarrassing. I've seen some doctors do things online where it makes me scratch my head. It's like, why do you think this is respectable? Why do you think that this makes people like? I understand why they're trying to find a way to get eyeballs on them, and I do understand that. But I'm a big believer in, and I talk to my doctors about this because they're asking me how can we do this or how can we do that when it comes to exposure. I'm a big believer in just showing the work. Just show what you do. There's no need to have your technicians dancing in the OR to some music in the background. No one gives a shit about that, and it looks stupid. You as a clinic look ridiculous if you actually have your technicians dancing on TikTok or Instagram. You look ridiculous. It's embarrassing. There was a doctor recently that had contestants for winning a hair transplant, and he was making them, dance for their dinner, as it were, with these stunts in order to win. And he actually, there were some interviews of these patients where they're spilling their guts out, talking about how hair loss has affected them, and then because they can't, hop on one leg or something stupid long enough, their dream of having a hair transplant without having to pay $20,000 or $30,000 is shattered. And it's right there for everyone to see. That is ridiculous. That's pandering to the nth degree. I highly disagree with that. I think it's beneath the profession of medicine. It makes everyone look bad, and it just drags the industry down even further.
It sounds like you have a passionate opinion here, and I think a lot of us have held our professionals in an incredibly high esteem, and I think without getting into it, we've learned, at least in the last couple of years, profession is what we thought it was. But marketing is one thing. Doing a really poor job is definitely a different animal, wouldn't you think?
Well, it is, but the problem is that when you have people pandering to laypersons on Instagram, it has nothing to do with their capabilities as a clinic, and you don't know as a consumer if this clinic is good or not. All you see is the dancing technicians, and it gets your attention. I'm talking not you specifically, Lauren, but the average patient that's just flipping through their feed, and they see these people dancing on it. It's like, what is it, a hair transplant clinic? Oh, I've been thinking about hair transplants. Maybe I should give them a call. It has nothing to do with the quality of their work. It has nothing to do with the ethics of them as a medical facility and how they actually take care of their patients. It has nothing to do with their education of the patient. Those are the most important things, but they're getting your attention by having their technicians dance for you.
Could there be a scenario where these monkeys, if you will, are actually good providers?
Yes, but in my opinion, if you think that this is an effective strategy to get views and clicks, then I do question everything else about your facility, your people, your being, the clinic that thinks this is okay. There was there's a clinic or a national chain that had something like this going on as well, where they turned the lobby of this new clinic that they just opened into a nightclub for this Instagram post. And sometimes I am speechless when I look at it, because I believe in a higher standard. And in an industry where you have a continuous degradation of standards it is based on what the public wants. And it all started with FUE.
Well,
because
welcome to the music business, bro.
I understand, but let me finish my thought here. So when FUE was introduced, it revolutionized the industry. Once the initial resistance was destroyed, which took a few years, but the patients are what drove the change. It wasn't the doctors, it was the patients. And doctors did have something to do with it, because the earliest adopters were demonizing strip surgery, making it seem far worse than it was. They were focusing and highlighting on the worst of the worst cases and making it seem like that was a regular occurrence, which I think was, it wasn't the right thing to do. Because
short-sighted,
because it was short-sighted. Yeah, it was short-sighted. Very, very, very true. And the transition to FUE has single-handedly created far more walking wounded than at any time during the peak of the strip days.
Oh, that's interesting. Why would you say that?
Well,
that's interesting.
Why
would that happen? Why would that be?
To continue my point, which we'll cover this, the reason why we have the degradation of the industry because of FUE is because aside from what I was talking about, where the patient drove the change, and it has eventually turned into a very nuanced, very beautiful procedure if done correctly. But it also lowered the threshold of entry into the industry. What do I mean by that? Well,
I see. You don't have to be an actual surgeon because you're not taking that strip out. Is that correct?
Well, you don't have to have exactly. But you don't have to have the surgical ability. I was pausing because a lot of the strip surgeons weren't actually surgeons by training. They could have been GPs. They could have been, whatever, dermatologists or, without actually having a surgical residency. So they weren't technically surgeons, a lot of them. Some of them were. But yeah, along with your point, they didn't have the surgical experience, I think is a better way of saying it. And just to keep things above board. But it wasn't just the doctors not having the surgical experience. The threshold was lowered because you don't need the staff, which means that you don't need the financial investment. You don't need such a large facility. All of the normal costs of a well-run strip clinic, all of the components that go into a well-run strip clinic have been reduced in number, which means reduced in cost. Fewer staff, less equipment, smaller space. Much lower threshold to entry to be able to open your own clinic. And with the lack of a real surgical component, such as with strip, you could also hire low-paid technicians to actually do the procedure for you, obviously depending on the state or province of your country. And it's also strongly fueled by the device makers that introduced these machines that they marketed to not doctors, but to cosmetic spas. They're the ones that also help to drive this in a big way. So ultimately, you have far more clinics operating today, June 23rd, than at any time in history. Like if you take all the clinics that were operating 10 years ago, you probably have double that today. If not more. Probably more, actually. And the majority of those clinics have zero experience surgically with strip surgery. Many of those clinics, I'm not even talking about Turkey, many of those clinics are using these machines that were promoted to them by the manufacturers as an adjunct to their other procedures that they offer in the same clinic. I remember hearing a recording of a doctor in Texas, and she was conducting an online seminar about the device that she was using and explaining how it was a fantastic revenue addition to her practice on a daily basis, because she could be doing a consultation for rhinoplasty while her technician is performing the hair transplant, and it's an extra $10,000 for the day, and she doesn't have to lift a finger. So it's not about the medicine. It's not about the outcome. It's about getting warm bodies in the seats. As they say in the restaurant business, turn and burn. Get them in, get them out, get the next one in.
And this transpired within the last 10 years.
Well, the devices started to come out about 15 years ago, 16 years ago. Around 2006, I think, is when they first started coming out. And you might remember the ads where it would be a full page in a magazine. You flip it open, and there's the two guys with the back of their heads. One has a strip scar, and it says, like, NeoGraft. The very first device maker, that was their ad. It said the NeoGraft difference. And that's all it said. And it had one guy with a strip scar, which was photoshopped in. It wasn't a real strip scar. And it looked, wide. And then you had a guy that had a normal-looking head. And that's it. There was nothing about the result of the, it didn't show anything about hair loss. It didn't show before and after. It was just the back of two guys' heads, fake ones. And it was selling the fact that it wasn't strip surgery. That's it. And it plays on the idea that, oh, well, I can just go anywhere and get a hair transplant. I mean, they're just moving hair. How difficult can it be? They're directly responsible for perpetuating that myth. It is like I'm not even scratching the surface here with how this works.
Crazy.
Now, some people may think that my standards are too high. I don't know. Maybe they are. But my goal is to get more people to understand that there is a better way. When I review clinics, when I have a clinic that applies to be a part of what I do, I've said this before, I'm not looking at pretty pictures on their website. I mean, I do. But I'm asking them to send me an outline of how they deal with their patients. I'm asking them to send me copies of the forms that they send to the patients before they even have surgery. I'm asking for copies of forms they send to the patients or give to the patients when they're in the clinic having surgery for after care, for the post-op care. I'm asking them to give me an idea or give me links to all their social media. Like, I want to look at how they're conducting themselves. I won't talk about this one doctor, but I've had members, one member in particular, I had to remove because of a stunt that was pulled on social media. I thought it was not just in bad taste, I thought it was dangerous for the patient. I don't stand for that. That betrays, in my mind, in my opinion, the medical ethic. And I'm not a doctor, and if I'm sitting here looking at this stuff, and I have to question whether an actual doctor is following the medical ethic, there's something wrong. I firmly believe in this, and
it's very apparent that you're very principled, and that's good.
Well, it's only because they pay me.
No, trust me. If anyone knows that's a fallacy, it's me. Trust me.
Now, look, I said it before. Like earlier this week, I had a good cop, bad cop set of episodes back to back where I was talking about how bad this industry is, and the next day I was talking about how great it can be if you found the right clinic and did your research properly, because it can be. Pardon the yawn. It can be a fantastic experience for the patient. You can find fantastic clinics that do have a sense of self-respect. All clinics operate in a bubble of their own little microcosm. their own micro universe of existence, which is, I mean, it's the same thing as office culture. You know, every office space has their own little culture.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Every office has their own little culture, and every clinic has their own little culture as well. The difference when it comes to clinics is, well, classic example. Okay, a strip clinic that's very good at what they do, shitting on FUE every chance they can, saying, where are the results? When the results are all around them, but the only results that they actually see are the ones that come in their door looking for repair. So the idea that this clinic forms about FUE is that it's an inferior procedure, that it's, you know, there's going to be way too much transection, way too much damage to the grafts, way too many cases of poor growth. When they didn't stop to think for a minute, it's like, well, wait a minute, maybe we think this only because the cases that didn't turn out are coming to us for repair. They're thinking, well, maybe strip would be better for me as a patient, and it's shaping our worldview about what we do versus what we don't do. That was my problem up until about 2009. I thought this way. And then it hit me. Well, if it's so bad, then how come all these other clinics are doing it? And some clinics are doing it very well, and apparently it looks like they're consistent with it. That's when I changed my view of FUE. That's when I broke out of this clinic culture and started thinking for myself.
Well, it seems as though those of us who have a curiosity beyond what's in front of us are the ones who allow for change and adaptation and growth.
Yeah. Yeah. On some levels, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I know people in this industry, I know people in general that it seems like they are forward thinking, but you know, they're forward thinking about their own needs and what they can do to. Yeah, I mean that's a whole discussion in and to itself. But yeah, I hope that gave you some insight into what I talk about when I'm talking about the politics and how it can be nasty and.
Any other here?
Hello?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
100%.
Sorry, I heard another voice there. So, but yeah, so there you go. I mean, there's a lot to it. There really is. But I hope that helps. And yeah, if you got any more questions, give me a call back.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Lauren. Bye-bye. Well, that got me on a rant. Got me fired up a little bit, but it's a good question, and it's a legitimate question. Phone number is toll-free 1-833-563-4247. You're watching the main event on Friday. Here we go. Got another call. All right, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Joe, this is Jim from Peoria.
Hello, Jim. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Good. Thanks for taking the call.
Yeah.
I was originally calling in with a specific question, but after hearing some of your comments to Lauren, this kind of started stirring up some additional questions. I actually called in a few weeks ago and I asked you how you sort of determine the doctors that you recommend. And I think one of your comments was, well, they definitely have to be a member of the IHARS or however that organization is, however the acronym goes. And but then hearing some of the stories about how you mentioned that some of the results are the worst you've seen, I guess that was pretty eye-opening to hear, just because they're, I guess, you know, you have to achieve that status in order to even be considered. But
yeah, let me stop you real quick, Jim. You're confusing the two. There's ISHRS, International Society of Hair Restoration Surgery, and then there's IAHRS, HRS, International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, my members, my applicants have to be an IAHRS accepted member before I'll consider them. The IAHRS is a standards-based organization. The ISHRS is not. It is an educational society alone that was started in the early 90s. I think it was 93. Two separate organizations. And the educational society I was talking about, ISHRS, that's what I was just talking about with Lauren. That's the largest organization in the industry. Has their board of governors, where I was talking about the politics and such. IAHRS, those members have been vetted to a degree. They do have, as the tagline goes, it's a safe place to start. No organization is perfect. Mine's not perfect. Every doctor has unhappy patients, no question about it. The question is, what do they do with those patients? Obviously, how many? Do I get a lot of complaints from people, or have I heard a lot of complaints from doctors that are applying, or sorry, patients of doctors that are applying? But then also, how do they deal with those cases? So, but yeah, two separate organizations. So don't confuse the two. They're vastly different from each other.
Yeah, no, good to know. It's just, I guess the acronyms are so similar. I just assumed
I'm not happy about that. It makes it difficult to discern who the hell we're talking about.
Right. And those like me who aren't necessarily, they don't know the organization that well, whether it's IAH or IHR or IRS. We just assume it's the same. So,
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying that.
It's easy to do for sure. And then, just to make things even more confusing, there's the ABHRS, American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery, which, guess what, isn't an actual board. And they even say on their website, due to regulations in many states, you cannot say that you're board certified in hair transplant surgery because you're a member of the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery. How's that for a kink in the plan, huh?
Jeez. Okay. Well, let's just put some more acronyms out there to confuse everybody.
In fact, and this goes back to Lauren's question about the politics. Like, what kind of politics are we talking about? The American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery, which I give credit to because there is a test that you have to pass. There's a written test and there's a verbal test where you actually sit in front of examiners and you answer basic questions about hair transplant surgery. Kudos for that. Like, respect. I respect that. I could pass a test. It's not like it's brain surgery, but it's very basic, but still. It's better than nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
But it too is not a policing society. It's simply, a very low standard society, meaning you got to pass a test to be able to get your designation of being a diplomat of the American Board of Hair Restoration Surgery. But the only reason why that exists is because the Federal Trade Commission warned that if the industry itself doesn't start cleaning up its act, and forgive me for not having the specifics prepared for this line of comments, then they were going to come in and police it for us. That's why the ABHRS was even formed, so that third-party oversight would not occur. How's that for politics?
No, for sure. And in some instances, maybe it's deserving of an oversight. Who knows?
No, it is 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
But that's what prevented government oversight. The government said, look, if you guys don't clean up your act, we're going to come in and we're going to clean it up for you. And they're like, no, we'll take care of it. Poof, ABHRS is formed. look, we're taking care of business. We're policing ourselves. Look, we have a standards test that people have to. Yeah, that's that was an attempt to keep the status quo, basically.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. No, thank you for the background there.
You're welcome.
I originally was calling in though because, and sometimes I don't always get to listen to the show live. Sometimes I'll be a day or two later. And I listened to one earlier this week, and you were having a conversation with a caller, and he was a little dumbfounded that you would actually shave your head sometimes just because you liked it. Mm-hmm. And he mentioned a couple of times that he thought, well, why would you undo all of the work? And I don't think it was setting in that your hair actually grows back, right? Your transplanted hair is growing back. But one of your comments was pretty interesting, which is, if you don't know, like, shave your head, and if you like it, if you can deal with it, then you've won. You don't necessarily have to kind of jump through all the hoops that everybody's trying to do here. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that, but I guess I would just share this with you, and that is, I really, really would love to do that. But being like a Norwood for a give or take, my hair, like in the stages, in whatever the different stages of hair that they are, the hair on the sides grows really, really fast. And, I got to trim that up quite often. Mm-hmm. On top, I don't know how long it would take to grow back, if it would actually grow back.
Yeah. Well, it would, because if your hair on top of your head is of any length now, it obviously has an anagen state. It's in it right now, and because anagen is temporary, it'll go into catagen, which lasts a few weeks, which is the follicle separating from, or the blood supply separating from the follicle. Then it goes into telogen, where that hair shaft will fall out. Anagen will begin again. The only issue is how strong will that anagen phase be again. So that's actually a great, not great, but it's a valid concern to a degree. But how long is the hair on top of your head now?
Oh, it's probably a half inch. It's just kind of short everywhere. I don't really. Yeah, it's relatively short. But and I just kind of trim my hair myself, and I've done that for a few years now. Yeah. But and I started taking the NMN that you've mentioned, MSM, and it does MSM, and it does grow fast. I mean, it's kind of odd how fast it can grow, but not on top. So it's almost like I'm giving myself sort of the back and sides haircut, maybe once a week, and on top maybe once a month. That sort of thing. So it does sort of, so for somebody to consider, maybe shaving your head to see what it looks like, I guess that's one sort of issue that holds me up from doing something like that. I get it. That's something that a lot of people don't think about. And I appreciate you sharing that viewpoint, and that I won't call it a fear, but that concern. Because it does make sense. It's like, You've spent this much time just to get it to be, a couple inches long. It's like, shit, I want to go through this again. But I do get it. But it comes down to this. What would you rather go through? Would you rather go through the worry and the actual possibility of having a bad outcome surgically, and then having to deal with, bad angles, shitty growth, maybe, somewhat or extremely depleted donor area, any of the complications that can arise from hair transplant surgery? Or would you rather deal with, the top of my hair isn't growing out the way I want it to? Like, it's priorities, and which is the lesser of two evils, I guess. Only you can answer that. But I appreciate you sharing your viewpoint. I think I still think that it is a very valid consideration for anyone before having surgery to see if you can live with having a shaved head, and trying that.
And in a situation like yours, if you're not sure about how your hair would grow back, if you decide you don't like shaving your head, I totally get it. That's another level of concern, but I would posit that it's not as bad as having a bad surgery.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point for sure.
So,
For sure.
worth considering. Also worth considering the shave. Also worth considering just doing nothing and accepting it as well. Because it's like, what's your personal life like right now? Do you have a significant other? Do you have a family? Or do you not? Are you?
Yeah. Married for 26 years now.
Yeah.
Good news, work from home. So if I were to go through with something, it wouldn't really be exposed to a lot of folks unless I, go out in public and do some stuff. But but all valid points for sure. For sure.
And I want to be clear. I wouldn't be saying, oh, well, you're married, you don't need to worry about it, because that's not the way it works. just because you may be in a fantastic marriage for 20 years doesn't mean that you're happy with your hair, and it doesn't mean that it's any less of a problem for your self-image than a 20-year-old that's just trying to just getting some hair in his groin and trying to find his way in the world.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So I get it. I get it. I totally get it. Ultimately, surgery is the last resort, regardless. That's always the message. That's always the fact. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. It's a last resort. And I do appreciate your view on that and your personal position. I think it's important for people to hear things like that, because it makes people think. And I think you saying what you were saying about your feelings on the issue, I think it can help people think about it in a different way, and it helps them to cover that base in their thought process. Because when you're going through surgery, when you're considering surgery, you need to touch on all the bases. And I think this is one that a lot of people haven't thought of. Well, if I do shave my head and I decide I don't like it, what if it doesn't grow back the same that I have it like now? That's a good point. And so it can help them make that decision as a more informed decision, I think. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yep. No, you're welcome. You're welcome. And last question, and then I'll jump off and let somebody else call in. And then if you don't know the answer for it, if anybody else in the chat wants to jump in.
I know all the answers.
I'm not on any topical. You know all the answers? Yeah, you probably do.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not on any topicals. I'm taking some oral, dutasteride and also minoxidil. But
have you noticed dutasteride going up in price? Does it cost you like $800 now?
Yes. Yeah, I actually called in last week and explained that to you. So,
you were the one.
Okay. Yeah, that was me. So
what are the odds?
I'm on generic. Yeah, interesting. It was a Teva product, my generic.
Okay.
But which you mentioned could be a good one. But then I also looked up, and then Teva just sold I don't want to say like a library or a catalog of its medicine, but they did just sell a portion of its
portfolio
medicine to another company. Yeah, portfolio. And for $565 million or some extravagant number like that. So who knows where it's going to end up, 2 months down the road. But yeah, so who knows? So yeah, so the recommendation of Teva may or may not hold true for certain medications. But but I am considering topical, and so what I noticed though is that the agent, like the carrying agent, the vehicle where it has to get into the skin, mm-hmm. it usually ends up being one of three, which is usually either a like an alcohol ethanol mm-hmm. sort of product, or a like a propylene glycol, mm-hmm. or I guess the new stuff now people are trying to use is like a liposome type. And I think that's what Zion Health started putting out just in this last year.
Well, I know that for finasteride, Zion was they've been championing that. But liposomal delivery has been around for quite a while before topical finasteride. So they were the first. I don't even know if they were the first, but they were among the first to utilize liposomal delivery into their overall vehicle. So, but yeah, sorry, continue.
Well, I was just going to say that I know liposome is supposed to be the least harsh on a scalp, referring to maybe itchiness, redness, irritation. But I don't necessarily know how the alcohol ethanol versus the propylene glycol compare against each other. I know that there have been more studies for those, but I also know that and just based on some of the reports I'm reading, the liposomal effects are not nearly as good as you have to leave the product in much, much longer, say for like 24 hours for it to actually work as well. And that's not usually what most people can do. Usually you put it on at bedtime and, you're going to wash it off the next day.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I didn't know about like scalp sensitivity, if you've got any studies or have heard of any studies related to the comparison between the alcohol versus the propylene glycol.
Not off the top of my head, but I propylene glycol, that's what was in original Rogaine, and that's when we were getting the reports of my scalp is irritated and inflammation. It was just nasty. So obviously mark that one off your checklist. But I don't have any. I don't know of any off the top of my head. I know they're out there. I'm pretty sure they're out there. Yeah. Like I want to say I remember something, but I'd just be speculating. I can't answer that one completely. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. No worries. Well, if anybody's listening and has any context on this, maybe they switched from one to another and had better.
Yeah. People can send me a link on my Instagram, which is @JoeTillmanOfficial. Check that out. If you're not following me on Instagram, then go ahead and follow me, and then you can send me the link, because I don't accept messages from people who aren't following me. I think that's okay. Isn't that okay? That's not being too tough. Yeah. Anyway, so I appreciate the call and all the input you got there. So anything else you got for us?
No, that's it. Thanks, Joe. Have a good weekend.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. You too. Take care. Bye-bye. Toll free 1-833-563-4247. You're watching special Friday episode of the Main Event, Friday, June 23rd, and got some good calls so far. It is currently 407, and we got another call. Looks like an international call. I got to get rid of that ringer. Hey, you're on the Main Event. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Joe. It's Chris from Poland.
Hey, Chris from Poland. How are you, buddy?
I'm fine.
Very good. Can you do me a favor? Is your window rolled up in your car?
Yeah. You hear that?
Yeah, it's okay. It's not too bad. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm fine, and I'm calling to ask you because on 7 July I will have my first repair job, and I'm a little bit worried about that.
Well, congratulations, but why are you worried?
I don't know what the result can be, because most of my grafts are between my native hair.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell me the plan, and before you do, just so I can recap for the audience. Chris is in Poland, and he went to a clinic. I forgot where. I think it was in. Did you go to Turkey?
In Istanbul, yes.
Yeah, you went to Istanbul. And you went to a clinic that, if I remember correctly, you went in for hairline work, and then wound up carpet bombing the entire top of your scalp, where you had a lot of hair already, where you didn't need any sort of surgical intervention, but they gave it to you anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. You were Norwood 3. That's right. Sorry?
The place was in the real hospital, and they just pretend to be a doctors.
Yes. Okay, so you have a lot of grafts that were placed in between your native hair. Are you having those removed, or did the doctor that you're going to agree to leave them where they are?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going to Brussels.
Brussels. Okay.
To doctor. Yeah.
to Dr. Bazenga?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, good choice for repair. He's a good repair surgeon. What was the plan that he presented to you that you agreed to?
He told me that he will do he will punch out the grafts from the temples.
From the temples, right, where you didn't have any hair. Yeah, because you had recessed temples. Yeah.
It maybe it will take 2 surgeries.
Mm-hmm. That's what I told you.
Then
yeah.
Yeah, and then he wants to rebuild the hairline.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But Joe, I was counting the grafts hole by punch by punch on my photos, and I think in the temples I've got maybe about 500, 600 grafts.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the grafts are between my native hair, and this is my biggest problem because hair don't act like before. The transplanted grafts, all of them are about 90 degrees angle.
Yes.
And it's a big mess on my head. And I really don't know how Dr. Bizanka wants to repair that.
Well, I've told you this before. I think that the grafts that are placed in the top of your scalp where you didn't need any work to begin with, I think that it's in your best interest to leave those alone, because you told me before that they don't create an aesthetic issue. People can't look at your hair and see the work that was done in your native hair. All they can see is your hairline and your temples, where which is the work that you originally went for. That's what's visible because you didn't have any hair there to begin with. You had the forelock in the front, but they filled in those temples, and they did so badly. But because you have a bunch of native hair on the top of your scalp, it's hiding the work that they did that you didn't want them to do. So based on what I saw in your photos, and for those watching and listening, I did not share the photos on the show simply because he sent them to me in private on my Instagram account.
If you want, you can use the photos on your show.
Okay, maybe another episode. I don't have them prepared, so I don't want to. I can't take the time to go pull them up. But maybe another episode where I can talk about this. But I think you should focus on the part of the result that's visible, which is what Dr. Bazenga is going to be focusing on based on the plan. I like the approach that he was talking about. That's why I told you it would probably be the case where it might take 2 surgeries to get the grafts out. And if you had asked me what he would probably suggest, this is what I would imagine him or any other good doctor experienced with repair would suggest. Now, if he decides to take out some grafts from the top of your scalp that were placed in the area of native growth, which you told me was not thinning, then I would be surprised. There would be some sort of extenuating circumstance that would justify that. But I didn't see anything in the photos you sent me, nothing about the description that you told me would justify that. I don't think that it's necessary because you don't want to risk any sort of shock loss. If those grafts destroyed any hair, then the hair that was destroyed, and then you take out that graft, that's an empty spot. Okay. So your hair will look, depending on how many grafts were placed in there, but if it's a decent amount of grafts that were placed in there, then your hair on top will be thinner because of it. So I don't think it's the best approach to take those grafts out just based on everything I've seen. Just deal with the hairline, deal with the temples, and let Dr. Bazenga do what he's going to do with that, and then give it the time it deserves to give you the result, and then evaluate. I think that you'll find that once everything grows in from your new hairline, it'll blend better than you may realize, and I think you'll be in a better place.
Yeah, sure. My thoughts are like this like I told you that in the temples I've got maybe 600 grafts, and when Dr. Bizanga will punch them,
Yep.
and my hair. Sorry for my English.
No worries.
I don't know how to say that, but in my native hair now it looks very thick. I've got a lot of hair.
Yeah.
Because they grow. So when he fill one more time the temples, and maybe he will put about 30 grafts per centimeter.
Mm-hmm.
And what about in the front, in the center, I will have, sorry, a lot of more hair. So I can't imagine how he wants to do that. Right?
Well, he'll determine that when he sees you. He'll make an evaluation of. I mean, he'll take. He's one of the doctors that likes to take measurements. So he'll take measurements of the hair that's in your forelock, which was native hair. You still had a forelock going on, and he'll look at what you've got going on as far as the work that you had in Turkey, and he'll evaluate the best approach. He's probably not going to be taking out all the grafts in your temples. He's just going to be taking out the grafts in the very front of the hairline. And he'll probably distribute more grafts in between the grafts and the temples just so that it looks more natural. And your new hairline, when that grows in, that'll also hide. Like in my own case, I still have the 300 mini grafts that used to make up my hairline and the frontal third of my scalp. They're still on my scalp, but you can't see them because my new hairline was lower than what the old hairline was, and a bunch of hair has been placed in between those old grafts. So they're camouflaged quite well. So you're in a similar position. Unfortunately, you need to have some grafts removed, which is a different approach, but the outcome will be the same. He can still camouflage the work that's higher up in your temples so that you not only don't have to remove those hairs, they can actually be used to add bulk and fullness to the final result of the frontal third.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And look, your trepidation is completely normal. Everyone goes through this, especially repair patients. You've been burned once. I get it. I've been there, man. I've totally been there. When I was driving from my home in Seattle up here to Vancouver for my very first repair surgery with Dr. Wong, it finally hit me what I was about to do, because I've been living with that mess in my head for 9 years. And as I'm driving, I had, it's roughly a 3-hour drive. I had all this time to myself, and when you're driving, you start thinking, And when I got through the border, and I was like, "Wow, I'm in Canada. I'm actually doing this." There's still a long stretch of road. It's still out in the country. It's between cities. I actually had to pull over because I was starting to freak out. And I started crying because all this negative emotion was coming out. And I actually had to call my friend. I'm like, I don't know if I should do this. And he reassured me. He said, "Look, you've done your research. You've looked into this. You feel comfortable with the doc. You should consider." I almost backed out. Because I was comfortable with the mess on my head. I was used to it. It was like a crutch. It was something I could rely on, even though it was, terrible. It was reliable.
I feel the same now.
Yeah. It's like, it's terrible, but I know it's there. And there's no surprises. It won't get any worse. It won't get any better. I can rely on it. But when you're considering a repair surgery, you don't know what the hell is going to happen. You don't know if it's going to be any better. You hope it is. But you recognize that you bring some variables to the table that are worse than what a virgin patient brings to the table. And you know that that these variables can and do present challenges. Like it's not as easy as if someone walked in that had never had surgery before. There are deficits that he has to deal with as a doctor. That's why you're there. But it's a question mark. How will it look? That's not reliable. What's reliable is what you have on your head now. You know? So I totally get it, my friend. I still remember that feeling of uncertainty. I still remember that feeling of dread and that knot that was in my stomach of anxiety. Like, what am I about to do? I'm about to do this shit again. Is it truly third time's a charm? Yeah. So I am totally with you, my friend. I get it. But you were like me, where you went to, you could say among the worst of the worst, and now you're going to be going to one of the best of the best. One thing, I don't promise much. I give very few promises to patients. But one thing I can promise is your experience with Dr. Bazanga will be far superior to your experience with the previous clinic. That's a promise. The skill, the experience, the attention to detail will be superior. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
So, surgery, it always carries an element of unpredictability. But you're greatly reducing your odds of problems when you go to an experienced surgeon that cares about what he does and has a track record of dealing with cases like your own. Okay? So you're in good hands. And never stop questioning, but don't let it get to a point where you become paralyzed and you don't know what to do, so you just stop because you don't want to step in the wrong direction.
Because of you, now I know a lot about the hair transplant and all the industry.
Well, I'm glad to help.
Yeah, today you were talking even about the Fight to Fight campaign.
Yeah.
And like I told you, I wanted to help them also, the EHRS, and some of the doctors told me that they can do repair job for me pro bono.
Yeah. And you decided not to take a free hair transplant and go where you wanted to go.
I was thinking to go to Dr. Marie Schambach because she was very kind to me.
I remember that, yeah.
She was talking with me like psychologist, not like doctor from hair transplants, but she lives in Guatemala and it's far away from Europe, so.
Yeah. True. Yeah. I know she cares about what she does. I've talked to her. Like I met her in person a year ago this month at a conference, and we spent time together. We spent quite a bit of time together actually talking because she knew who I was, and she actually had some questions, and she wanted to ask me about some things I've said in the past, and it's fine. But we came to an agreement, and we came away from our time together with a renewed respect or a renewed understanding of each other. I like her. I think she's a cool lady.
She's a very nice person.
She loves riding motorcycles, like dirt bikes, which is cool. Like I don't mean like for just hopping on a bike and going for a ride. I mean like overnight riding, where she's riding out in the jungle and stuff. That's cool.
I've seen her Instagram, and
Yeah.
I think she's got some photos with motorbike.
Yeah.
And she's very empathic.
Yes, I agree. All right. Well, Chris, thanks for calling. Feel free to call again before your surgery.
So,
If you don't, then I wish you all the luck.
Can I send you some more of my photos how I look now and
Sure.
what is the main problem in my case?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Take care as well.
Bye-bye. It's always nice to hear from Chris. I feel for him. I haven't thought of that in a while when I was driving to my first repair surgery, and it hits you like you do all this preparation. You're focusing like a missile on your options because you're determined to fix it. Like for the longest time, I wasn't. I just decided to live with my problem somehow. And I've not said this in a long time, but the whole reason why I got into the idea of repair was because I was in a new apartment. I'd just gotten divorced, and I was in my new apartment with my futon. I got in a futon, which was also my bed, and I had a computer, and I think that was it as far as my belongings, my physical, aside from clothes and personal items. But that was the only furniture I had at the time, and my computer was on the floor on my carpet. And I'd only been there for a few days, and it was one of those situations where I'm like, well, shit, what do I do now? For companionship, for whatever. And I realized I needed to fix my hair. But it wasn't until I actually saw a late night infomercial. Oh, sorry, I have my television. I just remember I was very proud of that television too. It was a 27-inch Sony Trinitron. Yeah. That's funny. Sorry, just reflecting on that. I haven't thought of that one in forever. But yeah, I saw a late night infomercial from a chain clinic that is no longer in existence. And it was the typical infomercial, not infomercial, but a commercial that you'd expect from something like that, where it's got the bald guy looking like a douchebag, just hating the way he looks. And of course they have him looking all sad, overemphasizing all the negatives. And he goes to the clinic, he has a surgery, poof, he's got all this hair, he's in a convertible, enjoying life. He's got some young blonde, the total bullshit commercial, like that, yeah, just ridiculous. And I knew it was ridiculous because I was like, yeah, it's not like that. But I remember thinking, but what is it actually like? I know it's not like this. I'm watching on TV at 2 a.m., whatever. But what is it like? And I did my first search on Google. This is 2001, late 2001. Yeah. And 22 years ago. Yeah. And I'd already known about Google a few years prior because I was in the tech industry and someone had told me, hey, you need to check this out. Anyway, just sidebar there. And that's when I saw that there were options. And that's when I started to focus in. I'm the kind of person, when I get interested in something, it's kind of like blinders on. I don't stop looking at it. I absorb everything. I become an expert. Like when I was shopping for televisions, when I moved into my new place, I became an expert in OLED televisions. And I was going into shop, and I would ask questions, and I realized I know more than these people do. It's just the way I am about everything. And then I'll forget about it because I don't. Once I achieve my goal, then all the information I have, it's no longer retained. It's out to make room for something else. Because I don't remember any of the specs of my TV now, but I used to know all the specs. But anyway, I digress. I started doing my research on hair. and the clinics out there. And the point of this is that I didn't stop to think about the fact that I'm actually about to get a repair surgery. I was focused on learning about repair surgery. I was focused on learning about the newest techniques. I was focused on learning about the importance of naturalness. That's where all this started for me. And by the time I made my decision of where to go, I hadn't focused on the fact that I'm going to look different. And it sounds unusual. It's like, well, of course you did. You're doing the research on how to look different, but I wasn't thinking about the actual act itself. I was thinking about the outcome, but I wasn't thinking about what that meant for me. Having this mess on my head for so long, it meant that it was going to be gone. And when you have something like that in your life, as bad as it is, like I was just saying to Chris, it's reliable. It's a crutch. You know it's there. Other things in your life will change, but you always have this rat's nest on your head. It's deeper than that, but that's one way to put it. And then it wasn't until I was driving up to the clinic that I had time to actually realize what was about to happen. And that's when I lost my shit. That's when I pulled over and was like, oh my God, what the hell am I about to do? And I almost didn't do it. I almost didn't do it. I was that close, but I pushed through. I stayed the course, and here we are today, 22 years later. Anyway, the number's toll-free, 1-833-563-4247, toll-free North America or worldwide using the calling app of your choice. Wasn't planned to talk about my own case like that, but cases like Chris's case in Poland makes me think of that. So anyway, got a call? Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
In Poland. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, how you doing? This is Eddie from Houston.
Hey, Eddie from Houston. Can you turn the speaker down in the background? I can hear the show on delay.
I turned it off.
Okay, good man. All right, what can I help you with?
So, I've been taking oral Proscar, 5 milligrams, splitting it up three times a week.
Okay.
The side effects are starting to get serious, I think, and I'm looking at my options of what else I could take.
How long have you been taking it, and how old are you?
In early 50s. I've been taking maybe 5 years approximately.
Okay. And you're just now starting to experience side effects?
No, I've had side effects from the very beginning,
okay.
Within a few months afterwards. But now it's become to the point where there's practically no fluid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like very low.
Mm-hmm.
And just not my libido's dropped, and so is my testosterone level. I'm thinking about considering exercising. I don't like it, but I know that's an option.
Sorry, you caught me off guard with that. I'm considering exercising, but I just don't like it.
I even signed up for a gym. I still haven't used it.
You're hilarious, man. I like you. Sorry to interrupt. Continue, please.
I eat pretty well, but then every now and then I eat some junk food. But I'm just thinking, regardless, I don't know if working out will make a difference, but let's put that to the side. The side effects are starting to become unbearable.
Okay, but let me ask you this: Are you getting the benefits from the medication? Has it arrested your loss, or did it thicken your hair after you started taking it? And have you maintained?
I don't know how to measure it, but I would say, yeah, I definitely see a cessation of loss.
Okay, yeah, which is the baseline of what you want. So your loss didn't get any worse. What kind of hair loss do you have? Like, what's your pattern would you say? Are you a Norwood 3, Norwood 2, Norwood 6? Like,
No, I've had surgery in the past, so 3 times.
Okay.
So it looks pretty full, but you can still see the scalp,
Okay, fair enough.
But it's not, it's not dense enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it ever will
Is
be.
it ever really?
Yeah. But it looks decent. I'm looking to do an FUE. So I have a lot of things going on. I do have a scar, that's, a minimal size on the back, like an FUT, a linear scar. It's like maybe 3 millimeters wide, give or take.
Not terrible, but okay.
Yeah, but it's definitely noticeable. Especially if I'm swimming or if I cut my hair a little too short.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. I just don't know about doing the FUE. I went to see a few doctors and I'm a little apprehensive because like what you guys were speaking about earlier, the PTSD
Mm-hmm.
experience,
Yep.
I've had a really bad experience originally, and it took me years to just have the courage to go back and do another surgery.
Did you go back with the same clinic?
No, I went to Dr. Wong.
Okay. Okay. And who was your first clinic?
Bosley.
Okay, fair enough.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible experience. And so, and I've spoken with you many times in the past. I know you have a lot of calls, so
No
a lot of
worries.
people that call in. So, I don't expect you to remember everybody and their story.
It's okay.
So this is where I'm at right now. I want to do an FUE. I'm reluctant to do it because I heard stories about that. You may not retain the majority of the hairs. Like you may not see the results that you expect, especially where the scar line is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how true that is. What my chances are. Historically, is that accurate?
Sorry, can you repeat that again? You're talking about, you said not having the result you want at the scar line. So you're talking about having FUE into the scar as well as thickening up your hair?
Yeah, right now I'm just talking about if I did an FUE for the scar line.
Okay. Yeah.
What's the yield on that? Is it a high yield or is it just like 50%?
Well, that's tough because scar tissue, in general, if you're going to someone that has experience doing that, and you're using scalp hair, then I'm reluctant to throw a number out there, but it's not going to be as high as if you had it in your scalp, like, scalp donor to scalp recipient.
Yes.
But if you do scalp donor into scar recipient, if you got a 90% growth rate scalp to scalp, then you might get a 75% growth rate scalp to scar.
Okay.
Which doesn't suck. It doesn't suck.
No, that's it's decent. And I would go to, I met doctors like Dr. Wong, Cooley, Cole. So I went to those guys. I know they're considered experienced in that area. So finding the doctor, I would assume those are good doctors. So it's just a matter of, do I have, are they able to do it on my head? So, so the thing is then, okay, if I were to do that, should I do the FUE first for the scalp or for the top of my head first before I even focus on the linear scar?
Great question. I was going to say that the other option is if you have a decent beard supply, you can also use beard hair as an alternative resource, which is usually the go-to secondary resource if scalp hair isn't an option. I know Dr. Cooley does that. I know Dr. Cole does that. Dr. Wong does not do that, or if he does, it's been maybe just a couple of times, but that's not his thing. But the ones that do perform beard to scar and have experience doing that, they report a pretty good yield as well. So that might be a better alternative if you want to, if you're one of those people that is trying to preserve every scalp donor possible for the top of your scalp. So that's just a secondary thought I had. But to answer your second question, should you deal with the top?
So you're saying beard to scar, not beard to top.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Beard to scar.
Okay.
So for your second question, you're talking about should you, if you have an FUE surgery, should you have a surgery to thicken the top first before you go back and deal with the donor scar? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
Yeah. Your current situation now, you just said it's not, it's see-through in some situations, so it's not thick enough for you. But what is it like on a day-to-day? Like, is it something that bothers you every day? You notice it every day? You actually have to struggle with it every day? Or is it just a deficiency you notice? It's like, yeah.
I definitely have to comb it. If I don't comb it, it's, it'll show.
Okay. Do you look like you have hair loss to the average person?
Minimal. If it's my hair short, you could tell, but if it's long, it looks pretty full.
Right. That's even people with full heads of hair, their hair looks thinner when it's short. So, okay. That tells me, okay, I got your plan for you.
Yeah.
First off, you're in your early 50s. Your additional side effects from finasteride is because you're getting old. It's not because of the nothing new is happening with your finasteride. It's just because you're getting old and you're lazy. Yes. Get your ass in the gym. Okay, you have to exercise, dude.
Yeah,
you have to exercise because when you start exercising, good shit will happen. Your testosterone will start going up again. Your libido will start going up again. Your abilities will start going up again. Your skin will look better. You'll feel better. Your self-image will appear better. Your self-confidence will be better. Strength training is the key, my friend. Okay? Those issues should rectify over the next few months. And you will be, yeah, that's it. That's the solution. Don't think about surgery for the top. You don't need it. Especially if you're considering, like, messing with your medical intake because of the side effect issue, then why the hell are you thinking about surgery? That's a disaster waiting to happen. Do everything you can to maintain your medical regimen, which maintains your hair, so that you can avoid having another surgery. Maybe do a scar surgery at some point. That's fine. But if you do scar surgery, that's maybe a few hundred grafts. It's not the end of the world. You do the top of your scalp, then some doctors are going to say, well, let's do another 2,500. That's a lot more than a few hundred.
Yeah, I could only do maybe, so I got the thing about the exercise, so I'll take that on. And as far as the FUE, I can only do maybe maximum 1,500. Well, let's say on average about 1,500, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 is the range that I got.
Yep.
So let's say 1,500. So I wouldn't even probably want to do it all at one time. Maybe do a small session first, unless you'd rather have less surgeries and just do it all at one time.
Well, you don't. Well, with every surgery you have, the odds of a bad outcome increase. That's just a fact of life. Anything that you do multiple times, the more you do them, the higher the probability grows of some sort of outcome occurring that you don't want. This is the law of averages, as they call it. So But what I was saying to you earlier actually is even more poignant, because you just said that you have a limited number of grafts for your donor area, so you don't want to blow your load all at once on the top and then wonder what to do about the scar. Because I think it makes sense to comment that the donor scar would be more of an issue for you than the top looking like it's thin in some situations. Because you are obviously the kind of person that doesn't want it to look like you had surgery. That's why you want to hide your donor scar. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's completely normal. So deal with the scar now or whenever you want first. The top of your scalp you don't need to deal with, because I'm just my opinion, based on what you're telling me, it's not a huge deal. Your hair looks like it's kind of thin in some situations, maybe to some people sometimes, depending on how you comb it. Guess what? Mine too.
Yeah.
And I've had a shitload of grafts. I've had a lot of hair moved. So that's just the reality of hair loss and hair transplant surgery. It's rarely an outcome. You rarely have an outcome where your hair looks great and thick in every scenario. You always have to style it a certain few ways to get the most potential out of it. That's for everyone, and that's for not just for you, but also for everyone that's watching or listening to this broadcast, because it's not perfect. What hair transplant surgery does, it gives you the ability to have options. It gives you the ability to do things differently than what you're doing now, for the better. But it's not perfect. It doesn't make things ideal under all conditions. It just makes things fantastic under more conditions than it does now.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll what I'll do is I'm not going to do any corrections right now, or
good.
The scar area. What I'll do is to wait. First, I'll exercise. That's the first thing. Give it some time.
Actually, first thing is get your nutrition under control. And you said that you don't eat junk food, and that's fine, except for every once in a while. But read your labels when you go to the grocery store.
I understand the whole the industry, the food industry. I know how it works. So
good. Okay.
I'm good on that. I like to cheat every now and then, but but cheating for me is like nothing compared to other people. I just have a high standard. So when I say cheat, it's still a high standard. But the exercise is the one I need to work out. That's something that's a serious issue for me.
I totally get that. Like I know when you see me on camera, I know I look like an incredible specimen, but it is difficult. All joking aside, I know it's difficult, especially at our age, because we're about the same age. But you can find things. Like one thing to do, it doesn't have to be going to the gym and strength training. That's what I think is best. But get into pickup ball games or something. Shoot hoops. Get the blood flowing. Get the joints moving to where you feel better about it. And then when you do start going in the gym, you don't hear so many cracks and pops when you go in there, right?
Exactly. Even martial arts, I heard, is a good option.
No. I'm sorry. No, it's not. No, it's when you're sitting there going through a bunch of kata. No, that's bullshit. It's not gonna do anything. I mean, sorry guys that believe otherwise, but it's nothing like strength training. It's nothing like getting out there and getting the blood pumping for an extended period of time. Get in the gym, get on the basketball court, whatever. Get your heart rate up, shooting hoops, stress out your nervous system, and good things will happen.
Yeah, I'll hire a personal trainer, at least initially.
That's even better. That's even better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll do that. Okay, so that's my first step, and then just wait. I'm not going to change the medicine. I'll just hold off.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I think that's important. I knew exactly what was going on 13 seconds into your call.
Yeah.
and yeah, and everything else you said afterwards just kind of confirms it for me. So don't change anything except your, getting off your ass. Just exercise.
Okay, so do that, and then FUE in the future on the scalp is what I'm considering on the scalp before I even worry about the scar, because you want it to look. I think I want it to have the scar, like have that area be proportioned, the density be proportionate. If when they start pulling out in that area, correct?
Well, I was saying the opposite, but I mean, you do you, man. You do you. What's more important to you is what's more important to you. I personally think that if you can, like, I could use more density. Everyone can use more density. Yeah. But if you can style your hair in a way that it doesn't look like you're bald, then you're win. Like, that's like, don't fuck with it. That's the way I look at it. Get the scar taken care of. Because even if you get the scar taken care of, like, the scar needs what it needs. It's not like you're going to need more in the scar later than you do today. Yes. It is what it is. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to get smaller. It's not going to get bigger. It needs X number of grafts, full stop. So
even when you get older, it doesn't get tighter?
No.
Okay.
No. It's for all intents and purposes, it's not going to change.
Okay.
So if it were me, I could still use more work.
Yes.
But my last surgery, where I did get more work, I also had the scar taken care of. Like, I did have an area in the occipital region where the scar was still wider than I wanted. Yeah. So we put a couple hundred grafts in there. I think it was like 200 grafts or 150 grafts, sorry. And it's fine now. It's much better. And if I want more work, which I've talked about this publicly, I have been considering maybe getting a hairline lowering procedure, then I can do that. But the scar is done, because it's not like you're going in for another strip surgery, where you deal with a scar and then there's the potential to screw it up with another pass. No,
exactly.
Put some FUE into it, and then that area is done, and you can still have FUE, wherever else in the donor area that will not affect that scar in any way.
So you're going to have another FUE to move your hair further down?
Maybe.
And who's going to do that? Dr. Wong?
I'm not to that point yet. I'm not to that point yet.
Well, it would be Raluca or whoever is the technician there that does that, right?
Maybe, yeah. We'll see.
For the FUE part.
We'll see. All right. So, look, again, do you, which is what
I got it.
Obviously, but that's my logic, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
And I can always use it as reserves.
Yeah.
Just save it,
Yeah. Because you could actually get that scar taken care of and think to yourself, you know what? That's not bothering you anymore, so I'm feeling pretty good about things.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right.
Perfect. Well, thanks for the advice. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thanks for calling. Have a good weekend.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. We're coming up on 5 o'clock. It's 4:53 Pacific time. I'll take one more call if you guys want to talk. I appreciate everyone joining us so far. I think it's been a pretty good show. Special edition of the main event. I almost called the show when I was making the thumbnail for the to announce the show for today. I wrote the main truth or the bald event as the actual thumbnail. I thought, I'll just do the main event. Let's see, anything in the chat room? Joe, can I recommend a way to get his heart rate up? FSK, I love you, brother. No, you cannot. You're hilarious, man. Next time I'm heading to Heathrow, I will let you know. And no, not so you can pat me down. No, I'd love to see you in your environment. That'd be fun. 1-833-563-4247 North America. It's toll free and worldwide using the calling app of your choice. It is 4:54, and I got time for one more call. It's been a fun show. Some good calls. Some of you have made me think, and I appreciate that. Let's see. You're hilarious, man. Let's see. I like the bald event. Yeah, that's kind of good. I appreciate that one. Sergey, I think you were okay. Sergey, I think I glanced and saw you asking this question before. Joe, if Dr. Zarev was a perfect FUT surgeon, like Dr. Wong or Dr. Sever-Laura Mercenu, how many grafts would he be able to get for a typical patient with FUT and FUE combined over a lifetime? I have no idea. I don't know. That's an odd scenario. Like I'd have to think. I can't toss out an answer right now. That's I'll see if I can think about that and ask me again next week. Yeah, that's a good question to make me think, which can be dangerous. Let's see. Let's scroll back up here to the top. See if, or not the top. Let's see. Any other questions? Lots of conversations going on. I love seeing you guys talking amongst yourselves. And before I get into anything else, people, hit that like button for me. I've been sitting here for nearly 2 hours. Normally, I wouldn't do anything if Spencer's not around to do the bald truth. But I decided to do the show, partially because yesterday's show was so short. But hit that like button for me. Show me that you appreciate me sitting here on my ass for 2 hours when I could be doing something else. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel and you'd like to be involved in the show by taking part in the chat feature, you can only do so if you have been subscribed for at least 10 minutes. So hit the subscribe button and then, of course, ring the bell or make sure the bell has been clicked for all notifications for when new episodes come out daily of the main event, Monday through Thursday, and Spencer Coburn's The Bald Truth with me, Joe Tillman, every Friday when he's not gallivanting around away from his studio. And, of course, when I have new videos coming out, I got a new one. I was trying to get it done by the end of this week. It's not happening. But in the next couple of days, it will be released. It's going to be a good one. It's not about not announcing a new clinic. It's about some results that I think are amazing from one clinic, just to show the type of amazing turnaround that can occur in the right hands. It's pretty cool. And I do have a couple of new clinics that I'm pretty sure I'm going to accept. They just need to get all their content to me that I can review. But everything I've seen so far, it looks really good. So that's exciting. Before I forget, Monday's episode of the main event, you will see it in the thumbnail, and I will make the announcement. But Monday's episode of the main event, I am having a special guest in. I can't say in studio. I want to say in studio. I will have a guest in studio in September, which will be really cool. I'll have double microphones set up and you guys can call in and yeah, that'll be nice. But on Monday, I'm going to have back for you guys to ask questions to Dr. Aaron Nussbaum. Because although the first time he was on was fantastic, and he did a great job, like he's a natural on camera, I had those terrible sound issues, and so this is going to be redeeming that bad experience with a new experience, and everything's going to be working just fine. So mark your calendars. This Monday, what day is that? Today's the 23rd, so 24th, 25th. June 26th, I will have special guest Dr. Aaron Nussbaum from Miami, Florida, hair transplant mentor, doctor, IAHRS accepted member, fantastic surgeon all around, and recently a new father. He's got a 3-week-old child. Really happy for him. So if you're watching, Dr. Nussbaum, congratulations on that. And so everyone tune in. And you can talk to Dr. Nussbaum yourself. You can ask him questions about hair transplant surgery in general, hair loss in general. He is a dermatologist, very talented and intelligent and smart dermatologist, and he does perform strip surgery and FUE surgery, both manual FUE, and he's very good with the Artis robot. And as you've heard me say many times over, the tool is only as good as the hand that wields it, and his Artis results, off the hook. Off the hook. When naturalness is the number one concern, this guy knows how to deliver, and every tool he uses that's in his toolbox helps him to get there. So check that out. Okay, so we're at 5 o'clock. No more phone calls. Phones are off. You cannot call. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everyone that called into the show and asked me your questions. I love answering your questions. I love talking to you guys. And I've been noticing that the shows over the past couple of weeks have been getting busier and busier with phone calls. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I am one of you. And that's why this is so fun for me. And of course, everyone in the chat room that's taking part in the chat and supporting each other. I see that. You guys are great. You are answering questions for each other where questions are asked. And it's just a great community that we're building here. And I hope that you guys, I know it's a sensitive subject to be talking about outside of our bubble, but if you can share this with people that you know, friends that you have that are starting their journey, or you think should start their journey into looking at hair loss solutions, they all probably are. It's just they haven't told you about it. But yeah, share the episode. Send the links. Let's grow this community, because I think it's worth growing. I think it's worth sharing. And part of it's because of you guys. So thank you, everyone, as always. And I'm out of here. You guys have a great weekend, and see you on Monday.